How's it going, class? My name is Justin Callahan. Me and Bill Cruz decided to do transportation analysis of Singapore, Helsinki, and New York City. It's no question that as each day passes, the birth rates across the world are on the rise, helping populate multiple cities. Aside from an increasing birth rate, the growth of city populations are on the rise due to individuals moving from many different areas. With this increase, it should be highly recommended that growing cities invest in the accessibility of different methods of public transportation in order to accommodate with the potential high demand of public transportation. However, the problem with developing new methods of transportation is the capability of incorporating environmentally friendly innovations. Nevertheless, in establishing a more effective method of transportation availability and traffic control through comparing and contrasting other highly populated cities around the world and the traffic regulations using new technologies will ultimately be beneficial because it will combine the positive aspects of each city's transportation innovations and can help bring forth new ideas in growing cities. The Republic of Singapore is a Southeast Asian country that is located on an island that is actually made up of 63 islands. It is about 279 square miles. The country is not connected by land and it sits just north of the peninsula of Malaya. Singapore is one of the leading financial centers in the world. It has millions of business professionals arriving and departing every day. Singapore is said to be the second most densely populated nation in the world. Locals can feel this during rush hour. The population can cause transportation to be very difficult in a large city. First thing they implemented was the toll road system. This was a system used to charge for the usage of certain roads in certain areas of Singapore, such as downtown. Each car has a small sticker that has a sensor. The sensor is read every time they pass an entry, and it reads the sticker. If they have sufficient funds on the card, it runs it. If not, they will get ticketed. Next, they have buses. Buses are the main transportation system for much of the community. Singapore has a very elaborate bus system, and the country has relied on it greatly for years. There are three major rail systems in Singapore. The first one is the International Railway that runs to Thailand. The second is the public one called the Mass Rapid Transport. Almost 50% of the public transportation travelers take the Mass Rapid Transport to work or school. It also has a third system that's much like a light rail system. It uses the system to transport people to shorter distances compared to these massive transport systems. Like other areas, Singapore also has a taxi system and is much like an American taxi. Helsinki is located in the northern region of Europe in the country of Finland. There it serves as both its capital and its largest city. While not the highest populated city on earth, Helsinki incorporates different forms of public transportation due to the higher commuter towns that surround the urban city of Helsinki. There is a regional bus system that was incorporated in 1994. This system was used in the metropolitan area and later expanded slowly throughout the city. Technologies that have been incorporated in this public transportation system include having access via internet to the location of the buses as well as their routes. There is also a ferry system in Helsinki. It began in 1952. It provides transportation for the people of Suomenlinna to the mainland. Since its original establishment, the only growth that has come to the ferries is the addition of a second line between the two cities. There is also a metro system that helps out the system. The metro is definitely one of the most used methods of transportation. It is expected to increase in the next coming years. The metro actually receives approximately 15 million passengers per year, and the cost is only 3 cents per passenger kilometer. The commuter train is the most popular form of transportation within the northern region of Helsinki. The majority of the population actually uses this commuter train to get around the area. New York City is located on the northeast coast of America and is about 468 square miles. It is the most populated city in the United States with close to 8.3 million people living there. This area is home to many different immigrants and many different languages. It is a center of international diplomacy, finances, fashion, technology, and entertainment throughout the world. It was founded in 1624 as a trading post and has been growing drastically ever since. The city also sees close to 15 million domestic and international visitors that added a population across the year. The city has a plethora of famous sites that bring all these visitors around the world. The majority of the island is built on 3 islands: Manhattan, Staten, and Long Island. It is a natural harbor that allows for safe passage for ships. The city is comprised of large skyscrapers that take up the majority of the skylines. Since it is such a densely populated area that sees so many tourists, transportation is an obvious issue here during rush hour. The main mode of transportation for the city is by rail. They have an average of 5.1 million users on their railway systems per day. The subway is one of the largest and most elaborate in the world. It has more than 656 miles of track. Much of the subway runs for 24 hours because the city is so busy and is the main mode of transportation. The riders pay with the Metro Pass is always good for use on the buses. The city has close to 6,000 buses that carry around 2 million passengers per day. It runs through 200 local routes and 30 express routes. The bus system is the busiest bus station in the United States. The buses run 7 days a week, year-round. It is the second main mode of transportation in the city. Buses stop just about every 2 blocks in the city. Bus systems service most areas that are not serviced by the subway. One new trend that many are following are taking their bikes or the pedicab. Since the rush hour traffic is so bad, some choose to ride bikes to work. Close to 200,000 people ride their bike per day. These riders make close to 700,000 trips. The city has bike lanes like much of the country, which allow for traffic to be out of the way for cyclists. There are over 400 miles of bike lanes, giving them comfort and safety. Between people riding their bikes and walking, they account for close to 20% of the transportation system. Our recommendations would vary for transportation managers in each sector. Although many of the successful transportation modes in these countries work, they will not work in each area. The first recommendation that would be for the areas that have a large amount of traffic for vehicles on highways or roads. We recommend toll roads for the area. They can charge for certain freeways, causing traffic to die down, while others take alternate routes. This worked in many of the areas, cutting traffic down drastically. For areas that are confined, the roads are too short and too narrow that cannot support toll roads, we would recommend use of railways or subways. These may have a large initial cost, but in the future will cut back on commuter traffic. It would be smart to put lines going through working districts leading to other smaller communities where commuters could hail from. This mode of transportation can also cut back on emissions because of fewer vehicles on the road. It has proven itself in countless cities across the world. In New York City, it is the #1 mode of transportation, and in Singapore, it is the second. To continue on with the subject of railways and subways, it would be highly recommended if these methods were already in service to consider potential expansion of these methods of transportation. By expanding these alternative forms of transportation, larger portions would be accessible to commuters both within the main city and to those in neighboring cities, thus increasing the amount of citizens that rely on alternative methods of transportation. In addition to the expansion of standing public transportation routes, having routes that interconnect with one another would make a positive impact on commuters due to the accessibility. As mentioned in the case study, certain methods of transportation are used in a certain area based on the setting. Many cities use a central station, which is transitioning from a city tram to a city bus takes no time, and in fact preferred due to its accessibility. The last recommendation is one many cities already have, and is the bus system. The system has a very low initial investment and it can put into effect much more quickly. With frequent stops in densely populated areas, buses can pick up passengers and decrease driving traffic. Also, this cuts back on emissions because they have less people driving. Buses are also cost efficient for customers, costing them very little travel. These are great alternatives instead of a subway because of the cost. The implementation of these methods of transportation can lead to a positive effect in the cases of growing cities. As one can see from the various recommendations listed, it is highly recommended that growing cities not only base their future methods of transportation around the convenience of citizens, but also need to take into account the effects of these methods have on the environment. Increasing the availability of public transportation, whether through buses or train systems, is highly important for a growing city in order to reduce overcrowding in the main city roads. Furthermore, transitioning into automotive technologies will reduce both amounts of fuel used and the amount of carbon dioxide emitted into the atmosphere is a way of the future. For example, making the transition from a gas-using vehicle to vehicles that derive their energy from electricity. These technologies provide the same service that commuters need, all while being more affordable to maintain and causing less harm to the environment. These was a great case study. We enjoyed doing this. Hope you learned a little.